I'm Reverend Phil, and I'm your host for Words of the Prophets. Where are our prophets now? Where are those messengers God chooses to communicate divine revelation through? In the past, the Creator has sent prophets like Abraham, Siddhartha, Jesus, Muhammad, and many more. Maybe our higher power has switched tactics since we reinterpret God's words as soon as the Creator's prophets leave us. Could it be that Spirit talks to each one of us individually and we haven't learned to listen? On Words of the Prophets, our modern prophets show us how to find the internal prophet that is the I Am, and we discuss the application of spiritual principles in all aspects of our lives. Love and light, everybody. I'm Reverend Phil, and I'm your host for Words of the Prophets. Today my guest is Shubraji, who, almost a year to the day, the last time you were here. So for those of you who are new or have failing memories like myself, Shubraji is a disciple of His Holiness Swami Chinmayananda. She is also the founder and head of Namaha, the Vedanta Center for Spiritual Unfoldment in Woodstock, New York. And Namaha means to prostrate or surrender to the divine. And that's going to be significant in today's show. Shubraji is also a teacher of meditation and spiritual text, and we're going to be talking about a spiritual text today. Today's prophetic topic is the relationship of devotion with the divine. This phrase comes from a written discourse given by Swami Chinmayananda on the second sutra of the Narada Bhakti Sutra. The statement containing our topic reads as follows: Love is a link that connects, a force that attracts, a fascination that seizes, and a clasp that grasps. Therefore, when one establishes himself in the relationship of devotion with the divine, he steps up into a realm of his own, having his own enchantments and personal experiences. And we're going to get into all of this. This is a fascinating and, I believe, so important topic. But before we do that, why don't you reintroduce yourself to the few people who don't remember or who haven't seen you before? Just quickly, who you are and where and why and all that good stuff.
Thank you, Reverend Phil, for having me back on your show. Well, I met my teacher, His Holiness Swami Chinmayananda, when I was 14, and I was not searching. I was just happy-go-lucky teenager who really didn't believe in God, but I was raised in the traditional way in a Hindu home, so I did go to temple and do the prayers. There was no question in my mind, but his magnetic personality, tall, 6 feet tall, and his humor and his down-to-earth manner attracted me. And very soon, I heard him speak on the Bhagavad Gita, which is universal, and it's about life, even though it's set in the context of a story. And that attracted me, and at that young age, then I started meditating, but I connected with him first as more of a father figure, because I had lost my father when I was fairly young. And then slowly over a period of years, he became my spiritual teacher, and I understood he is my guru. And then continued this association of 20 years, and now I'm teaching what he gave me in so many different meetings, in traveling with him, in serving him, as well as studying the texts with him. I decided to just be here and spread that message in a simple, non-dogmatic way, drawing from the teachings of Vedanta, teaching in a traditional sense as well as in a contemporary sense to anyone, to bring this message of love and knowledge and true inner bliss and happiness.
Amen to that. So you've used a number of terms. Let's define them for the people who are watching. Let's just simply, what is Hinduism and what is Vedanta?
Hinduism as such, we don't refer to any religion because there's no one prophet. There's no one founder. It came down, it was handed from teacher to taught, and this is a lineage. And the masters, they were people contemplating the question, who am I? And each master, it was a one-on-one, had a student and communicated this truth. What is this truth? This truth is what was revealed to them in the heat of their meditation, in the light of their inward gaze. And so that religion today, it's many different compartments, Hinduism what we call, but it's called Sanatana Dharma, the eternal law, meaning it is very universal, it's got diverse methods of worship, but essentially God is one. And the truth is one, it appears in different forms. This is Hinduism, people are practicing it in different ways, some more ritualistic, some more contemplative. So that's really, in a nutshell, Hinduism.
Let me ask you a question. I mean, you talk about getting basically their information in the heat of meditation. So they're getting a transmission from the one. So then there is, are you saying that each individual kind of like, even though they're connecting to the one, it filters through whoever they are as a human spiritual being?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The one energy, the one consciousness, which is without a second, is that life principle in you, in me, in everyone else. Even in the little animals, the little creatures, and that consciousness is the same. Okay, just a second here. All right. Is that okay?
That's perfect.
Yeah. That consciousness is the same. So the filter is the filter of my mind and your mind. It's like electricity manifesting through different equipments. We are one. Humanly, we are one spiritually. The essence, the energy that connects us, that because of which we are alive, is the same.
So then what we are doing is basically all of the history of mankind is fighting over the interpretations of the same thing.
Absolutely. One calls it water, aqua, tanni, jal in Sanskrit, but we mean the same thing. That light which is indicated by all religion, immutable, omnipotent, omniscient, that one, that peace that passeth all understanding, is what we call also in Vedanta, that thou art. We are saying that in your essence you are that, but it is covered by the filter of your mind and your emotions, and we are now living a fragmented personality. We need our personality and our ego, but that's not all. We are something more. We are essentially divine, because all of us are seeking that divinity. Call it happiness, call it bliss. We're seeking it in different ways. But once we connect back with that source, we call it L-O-V-E, love. It is the same thing as God. God is love, love is God. It's that energy, that flow, where we get a sense of total joy and security. Everything else we superimpose on it. So Vedanta, which is the universal philosophy, is saying, hey, in a nutshell, you're not what you think you are.
We should be thankful for that. So we're going to focus in on a book that's called the Sutra. There are a number of different categories for texts in Vedanta. Can you just like touch on the Vedas, the Upanishads, the Sutras, what they mean and how they sequence?
Well, basically, all this revelation was in Sanskrit language. It is still alive. It's not like it's dead. And it was compiled much later. It was an oral tradition, and it was compiled by Sri Vedvyas, they say around 1500 BC, into 4 books called the Vedas. Veda means books of knowledge. Vid is from the Sanskrit root to know. To know what? To know oneself. So the end portion of these Vedas contain the mystical utterances revealed to these different masters. There's no one founder. And that is called the Upanishads. Upa means to go near and sit near the truth. And the former part of these Vedic books of knowledge, their knowledge about the self, they dealt more with purification practices. In every religion, Christ said, pray with a pure heart. How do you get your heart to be pure? By focusing, by understanding what is the nature of the divine. So they appreciated the beauty of nature. Those mantras are there. And Those dealt more with rituals, processes to make the mind inward and quiet, prayer. And then this Upanishad dealt more with the contemplative aspect and the question, really the self-inquiry, who am I? How to arrive at that process, because it is not something of the world, it is beyond the world. And sutras, as what we are talking about, Narada Bhakti Sutra, there are many elementary books. Sutras are not revelations, they are attributed to somebody, man-written. And a sutra is an aphorism. It's a short sentence. There are many kinds of sutras. Today this is a love and devotion sutra, Narada, the character. And sutra is that which contains, in very few words, it's a capsule. It contains a universe of meaning. So that is a sutra. It's like a garland. And we have the Yoga Sutras, which a lot of people are familiar with. And we have the Narada Bhakti Sutras, Jaimini Sutras, Brahma Sutras, and it goes on.
So let me see if my numbers are correct. There are 4 Vedas. There's about 200 Upanishads.
Well, there's 1,100 and odd Upanishads, out of which 280 are endorsed as real, out of which 108 are considered totally authentic, out of which we have 11 main Upanishads. That's what we mostly study.
And then the sutras take a particular aspect of an Upanishad and break it down into a more practical understanding?
Well, the sutras are not dealing with any technicality. They are really different. These are ideas by different teachers or by one teacher, and they are kind of compiled together to reflect different views that may have been prevalent at that time.
Okay, so let's take that right into, this is the Narada Bhakti Sutra. Who was Narada?
Well, we actually are not sure who has written, but Narada was a mythical figure. He's found in the early Vedic period as well as in the latter period, which we call the Puranas, where there's more stories and ways. And he seems to be a messenger of God. He is both divine, but the beauty of Narada is he also has faults like all of us human beings. So he has been taken by the master Vedavyas as a character, and put in his mouth are these sutras. So we are not 100% sure, and in Vedanta and Hinduism we don't bother about the author, more about the content. So Narada is a guy.
So this is almost like the Christian Gospels. They put somebody's name on it, we don't know who wrote it.
Exactly.
Okay.
So Narada seems to have a diplomatic visa. He goes to heaven, earth, and his only mission is to create situations, maybe even conflicts on earth, which make people turn towards God.
Okay. And so that's the sutra he's written.
Yes, so the sutra is talking about love, about devotion towards the higher.
And that's bhakti. Bhakti means devotion, unconditional love, demonstrative love.
Well, the way is very simple. Love is an emotion common to all of us. We all have it. When that love is towards worldly things, I won't use the word lower, then that love is conditioned. That love, in that love, I love you, but I have my selfish desire. If you don't love me back, So that is our worldly love and love for things. Whenever that emotion of love is directed or redirected towards something higher, could be your profession, could be your parents, your children, something noble. And the highest, the acme of all existence is God. Is something, that truth, call it God, call it truth, call it, that state, great spirit. When it is directed towards something higher, it is called bhakti or devotion.
So it's interesting the way you were just describing love. There is, and I'm not a real student of Latin, there are 12 or 13 words in Latin that describe various types of love. And it's exactly what you were saying. There's love of God, there's love of self, there's love of partner, love of child, love of work, whatever, love of hobby. And then we wind up in the words of, there was his name was Emanuel Swedenborg. He was a psychic and he was a scientist. And he talked about there's a ruling love. So we keep meeting ourselves in these situations where I love my kids and I love my job. I got a conference and I got a soccer game. Which one do I go to? And I start to come up with a ruling love, and that'll change for everybody. So we don't always necessarily, though God, whatever we want to call it, could be the highest love, it's not always the one we choose.
Consciously we don't choose, or we choose it. But really speaking, it all traces back. If I ask anyone, what is it that you are looking for in life? They may use different words, recognition, validation, but we all want to be loved, because that is the nature, that is the fulfillment, and that is how we are complete. And that is the nature of God.
So would it be fair to say the only way we really learn how to love is through the connection to God?
Absolutely. The only way, love means oneness. Love means identification. Let's first define the word love, because everybody has their own
That was
meaning.
next on my list.
Oh, that was next. Well, so this love means I see more of me in you. How do I measure love? Do I love A more or B? If B was to die, 30% of me would be dead. I'm connected, I'm identified, I feel a connection. If A was to die, 100% of me would die. So love means we measure love by connection, identification. So it is, love means oneness, unity. This unity, which is in all diversity, our attention is on that diversity, and the love we are seeking is self-love, but not in a selfish way.
I want to read you Sutra number 5. Having attained which, and they're referring to devotion, he cares for nothing, never grieves, never hates, never delights in anything, and he finds no urge or enthusiasm for sense enjoyment.
Okay.
So what we're saying is we're connecting. I mean, that's what this guy's trying to teach us.
Let's go back to Sutra number 2.
Okay, you want me to read
it?
Okay.
No. Sutra number 2 says, this divine love. So let's understand, right now our love is invested in the world. 50% to the partner, 20% to my colleagues, 30%, this is how it's invested in other things. So this love is invested and I'm not getting the full return. But what he says is the nature of divine love, the deepest part of you, which is God. It's not God is some being out there according to Vedanta. Vedanta means Anta, the end. Veda, the knowledge. That knowledge which culminates in your own joy. So according to Vedanta is that love is within you. Understand first the nature of that love. And he says, Amrit Swarupa Cha. That love is the nature of immortality, meaning the love of God for me, mine for God, God here understanding the nature of God. That love, when I connect with that, I have no fear of losing anything because it is unconditional. So in that love, all other things, will you delight in something? When you are delighting in your child, you love your child completely. And at that time, I come and distract you. You have no sense organs or mind to even pay attention to that which is not that child's love. So that is what it means here. Completely loses sense of enjoyment, because today our sense of fulfillment is in the world. We will feel complete, we will feel loved when we have this or this or this. Now here it says, when you feel complete in yourself, which is nothing but God, which is nothing but divine love, you will lose the attraction for fulfilling yourself, not that you won't engage, from anything outside.
if I could love myself and be narcissistic.
True.
So I have to love myself in the context that first that I am divine, I am forever. So I'm choosing the permanent as opposed to the impermanent.
Correct.
When I choose to love the divine aspect of me.
Also, if I understand the nature of love, it means to give. To give and to receive is love. So when I can give, which means I'm ready to sacrifice my lunch and dinner because I want to feed my child. I'm ready to not spend, and I don't even feel it as any kind of sacrifice. I do it because I love my child. I want my child to go to university. So that means true love, even in the world, should be that which is selfless.
Yes.
Which is exactly what the Bible said. Love and serve. Jesus said the same thing. So it is the same in all religions, because these noble values, when we can live them, we are closer to who we are.
I want to break this down a little bit further in a couple of ways. First of all, we're using the term devotion.
Mm-hmm.
Can you define both devotion and then devotee?
Well, it's such a wonderful topic that you have chosen. There are different ways. The devotee, in the beginning, there are stages of love. So God here represents the acme of perfection, the acme of wholeness, my own understanding, whatever my understanding and connection is with God, Divine Father, Divine Mother, that energy which is light, which is love, which shines in my heart. So this love is there, and I feel separate from the object of my love, my devotion. There is a separation. I am the ego, and I am trying to, but the more and more I understand the nature of that goal, that love, whether it's God's love or the love that I see within myself, not the selfish worldly love, the essence of who I am, I start, according to the Vedantic teaching, the path of bhakti, love and devotion, I start merging, which is similar to the path of contemplation. I'm merging with the truth. So as I merge, I lose my self-identity, and I lose my ego and my will. Thy will be done. Then you go a step further, and you completely, what we call in Sanskrit, para bhakti. The absolute devotion is, there is no me. Oh Lord, there is only you. So complete merger.
Yes. You know, I mentioned Emanuel Swedenborg before. One of the other things he used to say was, you don't need love, you are love.
Absolutely. But we don't know it.
And that's
so we
the
have
process.
to study the sutra, we have to study from any tradition. Yes. We are love because we are complete in ourselves. We are whole, but we don't know it. This is what we call the spiritual ignorance.
There's a lot of it going around. I want to ask you another question. In my opening, I identified you as a disciple of Swami Chinmayananda. Mm-hmm. What is the difference between a disciple and a devotee?
A disciple is one, and of course there are many different definitions, who is following the discipline. A devotee may be listening to the teaching, connecting with the teacher or the divine, and again, different grades. The one who is completely devoted is a complete devotee, and it's the same as a disciple. But the disciple is living the teaching of the teacher, the scripture. So one who lives completely, not just worshipping the teacher in the context of even the Hindu tradition. We have a lot of devotees at the feet of the master, but they may not be walking the talk. A disciple is one who can be a devotee
and walk the talk.
Having said that, I want to clarify, it doesn't mean that there are devotees who are completely devoted to God or their teacher. So these are just semantics, I think, disciple, devotee. But definitely the best devotee is one who lives the teaching given out by the teacher.
Just to back up a slight bit, I mean, there are teachers out there who are self-realized. So at that point, your devotion to the guru, so to speak, and your devotion to the divine, basically are one and the same.
True, but we have to understand that a good guru or a good teacher is not interested in self-worship. Today we see that all around. But a good guru, good teacher, guru is one who dispels the darkness within me.
Yes.
Guru points the way and connects the mind and the heart of the student to that one truth, to that one energy, which is consciousness, which is God, which is love. And always make sure that the devotee or the disciple doesn't get sidetracked in guru worship or things that are going to give you some sensation, trance even, but they're not going to lead us to the truth, to connect us to that which we are really seeking. So a good teacher would hesitate, and really pull the mind of the student towards the truth.
So back towards the permanent as opposed to the impermanent.
Absolutely.
I want to read Sutra number 7, then we can talk about the word in there that I thought it was important. Because it is of the nature of renunciation, there is no element of desire in that love divine, which is what we're just talking about. Let's talk about renunciation. How would you define that?
Renunciation in Sanskrit is sannyas, the word. Sam means total. Nyas means giving up. Total giving up of what? What am I going to renounce that is mine?
Self, ego.
That's it. You got it. So, total giving up of ego, not of action, not of living in the world with my children and family and friends and partner and relatives, but the giving up of selfishness in every action. Your welfare means a lot to me. So, for your joy, I don't consider and worry about my little thinking. And it's not that I'm a doormat. Give yourself completely. So this renunciation means an understanding this connection with the divine which is within each one of us, seeing that divine and giving up all that is ego, giving up everything.
So, I want to back this up just for a second. If I am in complete renunciation, the mere use of the term my children would contradict that renunciation, wouldn't it not? Because I'm having a possession.
Absolutely.
So I am just the caretakers of these children as opposed to they're not mine. They are their own.
Yeah, the children have come through me and they are God's children.
Yes.
So this sense of, it's not that I don't have love and it's not that I don't serve those who I love.
There's no possession.
And no possession, and I do it out of a sense of duty, but that duty is not based on I have to, but it is out of love. These are the children given to me. I have to take care of them. This is my duty, my dharma. So this kind of renunciation is not that I renounce all the robes and I take on a frock or a dress or an outfit or orange clothes and no. It is the renunciation of this selfishness. And you said the element of desire. There is no element of selfish desire. Can you call that desire a Mahatma Gandhi, a Martin Luther King? Can you call that a selfish desire? No. It is for the welfare of all. So there's no, it appears like a desire. I want to free my people. I want to free my country. But it is not anything selfish.
Not about self, exactly.
So that is what it means.
I'm going to jump to Sutra 23.
You've done your homework.
Well, I try to. Love without knowledge of his true nature is like the illicit love for the paramour. So let's define lust and distinguish it from love, which I think we've been doing.
Love is love. When that love is accompanied by a powerful desire to possess, it becomes lust. So as my guru, Swami Chinmayananda used to say, lust is only skin deep. It doesn't go further. Love is for the content, for the real being. When I say, you know, you don't love me, you can't even define me. You don't mean your body. You mean the real being that you are. So this love, when I fall in love, and again, rise in love. Why should we fall in love? When I am in love with someone, even in the world, I want to know more about them. In the same way, here the love is devotion. When I understand the part of God in my life, in my day-to-day life, how I'm protected, how I'm taken care of, how every breath, this God is not away from me. Every breath is the touch of the divine. Then I want to know more about that changeless state, that divine, immortal, permanent, changeless, immutable, timeless factor called God, called Om, Christ state, Buddha state, Krishna state, Divine Mother state. It doesn't matter.
So this devotional love is a journey.
Absolutely.
Each person starts with their own starting point based on their karma. So let's say on a scale of 0 to 100, I start with 25%. Mm-hmm. So then, as I study, as I do the devotions, the prayer, the meditation, whatever it is, and the more I stay with it and I allow it to guide me, then the more I raise this up. So this is not necessarily, I guess what I'm saying is this is a journey. It's not necessarily a destination. We don't just get it. We keep growing towards it.
Well, the beauty of love, here I'm going to talk as opposed to knowledge, is when I feel I lack love and I'm longing for love, I'm in the emotion of love. When I fulfill myself or I gain it, it is not a new gain that I didn't have it. All the time I had that 100% love, I just didn't know it.
I connected to another piece of it.
Yes, so I opened only 20%. But all the time, love is such an amazing emotion that even when we are longing for love, we are actually in the emotion of love.
Having it.
Though we say we lack of it. In knowledge, I did not have the knowledge of this cup. So it seems to be, just on the face of it, something I do not have. And when I gain it, I will have it. And self-knowledge, that's why there is actually, I know that might be one of your questions, there is no contradiction between the path of knowledge and the path of love.
We're going to get to that.
Yes.
I mean, it's not even a question, it's a conversation, but I want to back this up. So, might sound silly. Mm-hmm. Love is like a banana. And I just peel it a little, get, remove the veil, the skin, until I get to the whole thing. And that's that journey we're doing. So we have it, we're holding that banana, but I can't eat it until I start peeling it.
That's a beautiful example, and my teacher used to give the same example when he talked about consciousness and love. And we can use it for divine love or love, because he said that he used to give a story that there was a guy who had never gone to a tropical country, and his friend told him there's this amazing fruit called a banana, and you must have that when you go to the tropical country. Well, he wrote back, nowadays we have email, but at that time we didn't, that I tried this fruit called banana and it's horrible. It's terrible. What did you tell me? So when these two friends met, the friend said, hey, how come you didn't enjoy the banana? Here is a banana. And the friend started eating the banana with the skin. So naturally he didn't enjoy. So love is peeling it and getting to it, and desire and selfishness is us living life, eating the banana with the skin. So he used to say, renounce and enjoy. Tyena tyaktena. When he used to explain this Upanishad, Ishavasya Upanishad, so this just reminded me, it's such a beautiful thing you brought into this conversation, because we don't actually enjoy life, because we are enjoying it with the wrapper, We are having the candy with the wrapper.
Exactly.
The wrapper is all our attachments, our craziness, our selfishness, our desires.
Beautiful. I want to go on to Sutra 25. The supreme devotion, bhakti, is indeed, as a technique, even superior to the path of action, which is called karma, the path of knowledge, which is called jnana, and the path of disciplined contemplation, which is called yoga. Before we even start talking about them, can we define each one? Because, I mean, people hear the word karma, and I think they have one connotation, but we're talking about something different here.
Yeah, we're basically saying we have three personalities. We have the physical personality, we have the emotional personality, and we have the intellectual, mental personality. So we are not saying that there's only one path. People are predominantly more physical, in the body consciousness. So the path of action, karma here just means the path of action, the path of selfless service.
Selfless service, exactly.
And yoga, as it is used in the Western context as well as in the global context, today means asana, physical postures. And they also, they fall in between these categories. So yoga is a term which is quite misunderstood. So the path of yoga is a combination of postures and understanding, contemplation. Path of love is more emotional. If you're more emotional, you can approach it with the path of love or bhakti. If you're more contemplative and you don't want to go and pray and get down on your knees, but you want to contemplate and feel this pure divine consciousness by a process of meditation, then you go the path of knowledge. What is the nature of this awareness, consciousness? And that is called jnana, the path of knowledge.
At the beginning of the show, we talked about namaha, which means to prostrate or surrender to the divine. So that's a bhakti demonstration, I would think.
Well, is there really a conflict? Let's go back to your previous question. No.
Yeah, no conflict at all. That's
because
the point.
One is approaching it in a different way. I have the emotion of love. In love also, I want to understand the nature of the beloved. In knowledge also, the object of my meditation, let's call it Christ consciousness, Krishna consciousness, or the formless, just light. That concept, whatever your concept is, I want to know more about it. And finally, I want to become that which I invoke. This is what we're saying on the path of knowledge. So in devotion also, the river ends and merges into the ocean, becomes the ocean. Some paths of bhakti will say, no, I will never become that. I am something different, and God is that supreme. I am the devotee.
So my question then becomes, can we actually get enlightenment without touching all four of those paths? I mean, how do we do this? Can we just do this, one of them exclusively, without the others?
Sure, but they are like, and I think I mentioned this in one of your previous shows long time back, it's a three-legged stool. Pull the stool towards you holding one leg, the other two will come. Because when I have love, let's put it this way, when I have love for you, I want to know more about you. And what is the expression of love? How do I express my love? With service, serving you. Serving you, loving you, giving to you. So all three is a combination because all three are part of my personality.
Yes, exactly.
So if I'm predominantly emotional, the path of bhakti is best suited for me. If I'm predominantly intellectual, the path of knowledge, but like me, I really have practiced and I live both. How can I love without
So we're going
knowledge?
to blend. We're going to blend them all. We'll have one that's
Absolutely.
predominant, which will define the path we are walking.
A great master, Sri Aurobindo, defined it as integrated yoga.
Yes.
We integrate all these because this is how we are. And the more integrated we are, it doesn't matter which is your main path. We are too busy fighting about the paths rather than actually getting on the path.
I want to talk a little bit about the path of knowledge because I think that too many people live in their head. So it's not about gathering information.
Absolutely.
It's about learning to get you to that place of awe.
Absolutely. You said it. It is not an intellectual process. We need some information and data. But the knowledge we're talking about is self-knowledge. It is an experiential knowledge. So if I say the same life is in you and in me and in this little bug, and I tune into that life and I experience myself without my limitations, and I see that part in you, I connect with you. It becomes an experiential knowledge. It is not just head knowledge. And that's why some people on the path of Vedanta or any intellectual discipline get too dry. And it's not about that. It's about, even if I have the greatest knowledge through the path of knowledge, when I live in the world, that knowledge has to culminate in love.
And it has to be without ego.
Absolutely.
Because, again, that idea of selfless service, it's not just doing service. Mm-hmm. If I'm doing service because I want people to like me or I want my name up on buildings, that's not selfless service.
Well,
it's about service for the sake of we are one. If I help you, I'm helping myself and God at the same time.
Actually, I asked this question when I was teaching Narada Bhakti Sutra. And there has been some research recently also to this effect, that when you truly give something, your time, your energy, or a thing, to someone you love, what does it make you feel? It makes you feel fulfilled. So this service is not I'm giving away something, but by giving of myself, because I'm coming not from a place of lack, but I'm coming from the place of that infinite love which is within me.
Abundance.
It's something that everyone has. And if we just start refocusing and even first just understanding and getting in touch, hey, I have so much love within me to give. Why am I a beggar? And if I start feeling empowered with that, it's not selfish. And from that space, I share with you and you and you. How mankind would be changed. It has nothing to do with religion, which religion I'm following.
No, because every religion is meant to get you to that universal love.
Absolutely.
What I'm trying to distinguish for people watching is the difference between an ego-driven and a divine-driven demonstration, whether it's knowledge, whether it's service, whether it's basically disciplined contemplation. If I'm doing it to feed self, whether I identify it or not, if I want you to think a lot of me because I have all these facts, I'm not getting anywhere.
It's as simple. If I understand in my contemplation that myself is you and you are myself, I will always meet you with love. If I understand that God alone exists and everything is God, which is the point of view of a devotee of devotion, of love, the path of bhakti, everything is God. This cup is God and I keep it beautifully. This body is also God here, reflecting through this body, and I keep it neat and clean and wonderful. So everything doesn't become an object anymore. It is God in that form. What will my relationship be? Pure love, pure joy. So I will look past something that irritates me maybe about you and understand, hey, this is just the personality. In the essence, Reverend Phil is full of love.
Exactly. At the core, we're all the same. Exactly. We started before we got on the air, and I mentioned, and I wanted to just touch base with this. The sutra we're talking about is one that features as its supreme technique bhakti, the devotion. Bhagavad Gita, as I understand it, Krishna was introducing karma. At that point, there were only 3 yogas, and he introduced the 4th one and basically said they're all equal, but this is supreme. How does this happen? How do we have like 2 divine, we talked about divine scriptures, and they're teaching same basic stuff, and one is elevating one is elevating the other?
it is just something which is apparent. Really speaking, it depends from which point of view. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is talking about all paths. In chapter 12, he's emphasizing devotion. In chapter 13, knowledge. And actually, it is all connected. So it's not that. But there is a tendency within the scheme of Vedanta that when we have books talking about knowledge, that path is extolled. When it is talking about devotion, that path is extolled. And Shankaracharya, in his Viveka Chudamani, which is a lot of the path of contemplation and knowledge, even there he says, this is the path of knowledge, but in all the instruments necessary for liberation, bhakti, love and devotion for the divine is the supreme. So it's a point of view. They emphasize because of the nature of the students historically at different poins in time. There is actually no conflict. It is we people who make a conflict that, oh, Gita is saying this, and Narada Bhakti is saying this, and Brahma Sutra is saying this. So it is not true, but when we look at it from the face, it appears to be one is superior to another. And they only say that to drive home a point. Ultimately, it's whichever path is best suited, and Krishna says that in the Bhagavad Gita, according to your inner temperament. Follow that.
So we've got a whole bunch of people watching.
Yes.
Can you give them some guidelines to figure out what their inner temperament might be? How do they determine that?
Notice, take some time to introspect. Notice what is your predominant personality. Actually, you will know that. And then see what comes to you. This is the way to know, effortlessly. I mean, do I have an inclination for music, or do I have an inclination for architecture? So follow, this is the whole teaching of Vedanta is follow your swa-dharma. Follow those natural inclinations without upsetting others, which are selfless, which are most natural to you. Go on that path. You will find your own balance. Don't dabble in everything, maybe in the beginning. But once you have decided, stick to that. There are many routes to go or routes to go to one destination. Once you have decided, take that route and stay on it completely, and you will get there.
Yeah, that's important. It's like how you do meditation. Get a technique and stay with it. Don't, 3 weeks down the road, this doesn't work, try a new technique.
And also, it is not that they are totally opposed. So you can follow jnana or knowledge and infuse the love. So what I say is each one has to find their own way, unique way. You can blend it, you can combine it, but it should be clear, and that's why we need a teacher, a guide, one who has walked the path.
That was one of the things we talked about in one of the past shows about the teacher's role. I want to break away just for a few minutes. I got a couple of announcements to make. Then we're going to come back and we'll finish up with Sutra 35. Okay, everybody. This is public access television, and that means you. We're here for you. You're not here for us. So we'd like to hear from you. Do you like what you're hearing? Are there questions you have? Is there something you'd like to see covered on this show? Maybe you'd like to do a show with me. You know, it's happened a couple of times now. People have seen the show and called in and wanted to do a show. So I'd love to hear from you in any shape or form. Also, just as another notice, the information that has been flashing on the screen when Shubhaji is talking, the website is her website. The phone number will not get you directly to her, but will get you to somebody locally who could hopefully answer questions or then pass it on to her. Want to talk a little bit about just the fact that I'm a spiritual counselor. I do counseling. I am also a state licensed counselor. I tend to lean much more to the spiritual aspects than I do to the therapeutic aspects. I don't believe we solve our problems with the same instrument that creates them. So If there's a problem with any aspect of life, I am sure that there is a spiritual solution to it. I'd be happy to guide you to that. I don't tell you what to do. I show you how to find your own truth. But I, again, firmly believe that without a spiritual component, we do not heal. So if there's something going on, you think what you've heard here or heard over the course of some shows that I might be able to help you, call me, contact me. I work on a donation basis, so if money is a problem for you, it's not going to be a problem for us. I'm here to help you. I'm here to guide you to healing. Want to make an announcement for our good friends up at Unity Santa Fe, which is up at, 1212 Unity Way off of the bypass route. And they're going to be featuring Gary Renard, who is a noted teacher in the Course of Miracles. He'll have workshops on Saturday, December 4th from 5 to 9 p.m. and on Sunday, December 5th from 6 to 9 p.m. Pre-registration is required. There is a fee. We cannot talk about that. So if you want more information, call 505-983-4433 or go to www.unitysantafespeltout.org and they will tell you everything you need to know. Next week, my guest is going to be Reverend Dr. Richard Murphy. We are going to do a show on Thanksgiving and what we all need to be thankful for. So tune in for that, and maybe we could all get a little bit more gratitude in our lives. We're back.
Good.
Okay, so we've got about 6-7 minutes left. Sutra 35. Indeed, the sources of devotion are explored and exploited fully through renunciation of sense objects and also by giving up attachments to beings around. We kind of touched on it. We haven't. Let's talk about detachment.
Okay.
It's almost like renunciation,
Mm-hmm.
but there is distinctions. You want to...
As I said, renunciation is the giving up nothing external, but it is an internal exercise. Giving up, moving, coming from, operating from a sense of ego. Detachment is the process which brings us to renunciation. And detachment is, well, let's see what's attachment. Attachment is this mental bridge, it's not physical, which we throw from ourselves to the object of our desire or love. And we project outwards thinking that we will get total happiness from that object of being.
So if I have the biggest television or the newest car or the most powerful computer, my life is going to be great.
Great. And the fact is that we're not saying give up the objects or the people in your life, but establish a healthy relationship, because no one can give you total love or joy except yourself. Going within, really seeing the heart, the core of who you are. You are already that love and joy. And the moment I attach myself to something with the false expectation of getting complete happiness, we are not saying that there is no happiness in objects, that don't enjoy them, don't have them. Have your iPhone, have your computer, have everything. But we shouldn't become slaves or victims to those things. Then we are attached. So that is the detachment, is moving back to yourself.
Doesn't enjoyment in some shape or form imply attachment?
Yes, it does. But it's again, how do I use it? When we enjoy something, okay, let's take a look. We enjoy this object, all right? This object becomes instrumental to make us feel what? When I drink a glass of tea or wine or whatever it is. I'm not saying that there's no joy in wine or tea or water. But that feeling of love or fulfillment, where is that coming from? From here? It's not in the object. Because the same object would then give happiness, equal happiness to everyone. So that happiness is already within me. When a desire even a selfish desire, is satisfied in that moment, it's like a camera shutter. And I think if I recall, I've spoken about that in a previous show here. That shutter, which is open, closes, and that opens up, and that joy which is within me floods out, and I falsely attribute it to this object, and I then run after it. But the joy or the bliss or the love was within me. When my mind was quiet, after the desire is satisfied, it just beams out. So it's here.
So it's twofold. It is seeing that I am the sole source of the love as long as I am connected to the divine.
Absolutely.
And anything that I am getting any enjoyment from, I see that as an extension of the divine.
True. Absolutely. And that is also the divine in that form.
Yes.
And the joy is here, and it's not that I can't enjoy it, but to base my whole happiness on that is something that I'm looking out, because that happiness is with me.
Yes.
If I start from I am happy, I am love, I'm already complete, that love can be reflected back to me through my partner, and I accept them totally for who they are. This is the whole idea.
So let's just flip this to the other side. We've got about 2 minutes left. Attachment to the Supreme is different than attachment to the physical world.
Yes, because the mind cannot remain without attachment. Right now it's turned outwards. When we take that mind and heart and attach it to something which is eternal, immutable, which is constant, which is the nature of permanence, changeless, that is the flow, the connection of love. It is an attachment, but in that we call it attachment, but really there is no you and me in that. It is just total merger, total fulfillment, and in that there is no selfishness, there is no desire, because I'm totally fulfilled with the love of the divine. And I understand. How does that translate? It's too abstract. I understand that everything that's happening to me is for my growth. My beloved God wouldn't give me even one experience if it wasn't for me.
Always. In spite of what my ego tells me about it, it's for me. And that sounds like it's the process, it's the experience and knowledge we gain as we walk any of these paths that are going to get us ultimately to that ultimate knowledge.
Ultimately back to our source, our self, which we can call God, but it is within us, or rather we are within that.
And with that, I got to bring this to an end. I thank you so much for coming and sharing with us.
Thank you so much, and may you be blessed to continue the good work that you are doing for the community.
Likewise to you, and maybe we won't wait a whole year for the next time we do this. I want to thank you all for tuning in. The message, as it's always been on this show, will continue to be, you are one with the divine. Use whatever name you want to put in there. With that knowledge, you create your reality. If your reality is not bringing you joy, it's not bringing you happiness, change it. You've got the power to do it. So I want to thank you all for tuning in. Tune in again next week for our Thanksgiving show. And until then, walk in love and light. I'm Reverend Phil, and I've been your host for Words of the Prophets. Thank you for tuning in. Please join me again next week, same time, same channel, for more Words of the Prophets.